Welcome back to Call Me By Your Game, the podcast where I, your host Connor McCabe, bring on a guest to hear from them about a meaningful or memorable video game from a particular moment in their life. This is a podcast about what makes video games special to different people. A little bit of housekeeping. Up top is that anything that my guest or I plug today, you'll be able to find in a link in the show notes. So whether you're watching this on YouTube, which you should, or if you're listening to us on any podcast catcher, scroll down in this episode's details and you'll be able to find links to people's social media accounts, maybe another podcast that could be promoted later today, and also our Patreon, which is patreon.com/Super NPC Radio. And if you want to help the show, there's a couple ways you can do that. You can either leave a rating and review for Call Me By Your Game wherever you're listening. You can share it with a friend, whether they love the game we're discussing today or video games in general, or you can check out what we have going on Patreon. That's a place where for supporting us at either the free or paid levels, you get bonus video game podcasts from myself and the contributors at the network. For example, there's a bonus episode of this show every single month that goes up where it's more of a group style panel discussion on one game at a time. And the episode that'll be up right now is Night in the Woods. Had a really fun time. I actually might have to recommend that to my guest today if this person hasn't played it. And coming next month, I'm going to be discussing the game for the Sony PSP, Me and My Katamari. There's a bunch of bonus stuff up there, though, at different tiers. And even at the free tier, you get some bonuses, too. I'll stop saying that word. Bonus is starting to sound gross, is how I'm feeling. Let's introduce our guest for today's episode. Please welcome writer, performer, and director, Nadia Osman. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Connor. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for taking the time to do this. I'm so excited. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming up today, but I've got to start with a very, very small and simple question, which always feels silly after we've been talking for 20 minutes, which is, how are you today?
Terrible. No, I'm good.
Surviving, hopefully.
I love being asked the question, how are you / how are you feeling in the current era in which we are in the beginning of 2026.
Yes.
Because every hour feels like a year and every day feels like a month and every second feels like 10 years, etc., etc. But I'm otherwise fine. How are you doing?
It's very relatable. It's like, how can a hellscape have so many layers to it? How is this possible?
Dante knew.
Yeah.
Inferno.
Hey, that guy?
That guy was on to something with 7 of them. I'm like, brother, I think you're missing a few.
Yeah,
I think we're in them now.
That's underselling it, Mr. Dante. Come on. Well, hey, with all that being said, I'm glad that you're hanging in. I'm really excited to talk about games today. You and I, though, let's introduce you to the listener a little bit. We know each other, how I know almost every guest on this podcast, through the Los Angeles comedy community, namely the UCB Theater. And when I think back to when you first must have come into my vision, or I knew who you were before we became friendly, and it must have been during your time at, I think it was your time at Mod Night, because that back then I was going to a lot of shows. I must have been seeing your teams, and also then just would start to see you around the theater. And then the more and more mutual friends we got, the more and more friendly it was, the more and more easy it became to be friendly. And we've shared multiple weddings now with our, that sounds like we've had multiple weddings. We've been to multiple weddings together for mutual friends.
That reminds me, you got to sign the annulment again. Yeah,
I know. I keep putting it off. But you're someone who is such a delight to talk to every time we get a chance to cross paths. And, you know, once the video game thing came up, I was like, I got to have you on. That's a ramble, but Nadia, I've introduced you a little bit. What do you want to share about yourself with the listener? What are you up to? And do you have anything you want to plug today?
Well, first of all, thank you for those kind words. You know, it's the same thing with, like, you see people around for a while and then you get to know them and then you're at the same functions and then you have a couple drinks together, you hang out some more, and then you're like, hey, that's a good egg right there. They're pretty all right. And we've got a bunch of mutuals, and you threw me back. Take me back, thinking about the many, many, many sketches that I wrote and put up on those stages. Right now, I've been working on this and that, things that we're going to sell and then didn't, and then things that are in the process of going places, doing things. So it's that unfortunate part of the Hollywood life cycle where you can't actually be like, here's a cool thing that I just did or am in the middle of because it hasn't happened yet.
Yes.
That said, I do a podcast with a fellow mod alum and UCB guy who probably also would make a magnificent guest on this pod.
God, I gotta hit him up. That would be awesome.
His name is Matt Brancohen, and we do a pod called Big is Moving to Paris, the only Sex and the City and Just Like That podcast where we talk all things in the Sex and the City universe. And we are going to be kicking off a few new series because the show And Just Like That is unceremoniously canceled last year, leaving us to go, cool, what else can we gab about? Because we just like talking too much. So you can check that out wherever you may get pods.
Do you have, and this may, if I'm asking questions that shouldn't be answered live because you either A, it's under wraps, or B, you don't want to share yet, do you have an idea of what potential series you could be talking about next?
Oh, for the pod?
Yes, for the pod.
We're going to be doing a little mini series we call Bada Bing in the City.
Oh!
Which is, a crossover that's showing you the uncanny comparisons between the Sex and the City universe and the Sopranos universe. Two HBO shows we love that are from the same era that we're going to be sort of dissecting by topic to figure out exactly where our characters kind of fit into the landscape with them. Because there's a lot more similarities than I think people think.
Incredible.
Between those two.
I love hearing that. I've seen all the way through in The Sopranos twice. I just about a year ago was finishing up my first rewatch, which was only made my appreciation for the series grow. So anytime I get to see somebody else is going through a rewatch or hear someone who's going to talk about it and like the topics around it, like the connections between it and Sex and the City, I am excited. So that is very cool to hear.
Thank you. It is one of my absolute all-timer favorite shows. Honestly, both of them. Sex and the City is more of a guilty pleasure, but it's also a thing where I go, oh no, I can quote it. Like I know I've seen it too many times, just like in the background as a young person, just like having it on TV and whatnot. And then with The Sopranos, it was like an active choice. For a long time, I didn't watch it because I wanted it to be like at a point in my life where I could like truly get into it and be fully invested. And then when that point came, I was like, where have you been all my life?
Yep.
Inject it straight into my veins.
Yes. I've held so many like shows or games or movies for like the right moment as well. So I can absolutely relate to like holding that for when it can be appreciated. I know that, isn't Matt from New Jersey?
Matt's from Pittsburgh, I think.
Pittsburgh. Oh.
No, he is from.
He's
from the tri-state. No, Mary's from. Sorry, you're right. His wife is from Pittsburgh. Matt is from like the Jersey. It's like the border.
Okay, sure.
Like Pennsylvania, like that tri-state area.
Yes, great. And I forget where you grew up.
I grew up in Southern California.
Okay, gotcha. I wanted to make sure I wasn't leaving a Jersey girl out of the mix.
No. I'm a Jersey girl at heart. Is what it feels like. Anytime I've been to Jersey, I'm like, this feels correct to be served a breadbasket, a salad in quotes, of iceberg lettuce and a few pieces of carrot and blue cheese dressing, and then the biggest mound of spaghetti you've ever seen. Every time it's just like, this feels like home.
That's incredible.
A home I never knew, but always wanted. But no, I grew up in Southern California in a little city called Fullerton, next door to Anaheim, which is where Disneyland is. And that's where that is on the map.
I can't remember if that had come up before, but it's like a tiny piece of information that's it's not important to everyone's story on the show, but it does like help me sort of fill in some visual gaps when I'm imagining the stories that you may be telling me at some point today. Well, we plug the pod. You talked about some stuff you have going on. Is there anything else you want to say about yourself before we move on?
Fuck ice.
Great. I don't think you could have thought of a better thing to say. Thank you. We'll get get
them out of here. They're up to no good. They're up to no good. I don't like it. You see what they've been doing?
It sort of feels
not
like
on my watch.
It feels like too. It's sort of like when people would say like, people. When I say that, I mean nerds would say, "May the force be with you," and you're supposed to say like, "and also with you." I think when someone says "fuck ice," I should also be saying, "and a fuck ice to you too."
I love the Catholicism of Star Wars. I love the overlap where it's like 100%. You guys know that goes to church, right? It's like shake hands with everyone else who has the force.
Yes.
Force with you.
Yes. Oh, that's great. Well, couldn't have said better words. Thank you, Nadia.
Of course.
We are going to talk about your general history with gaming in a second. But before we do, I'd love to tee up what we have coming on the main event in the second half of the show and invite you to call me by your game.
Today, I have brought in a game that I love. It's actually 3 games, but they're all fairly short, so I'm going to refer to it as a trilogy, much like our friends over at Star Wars, all 3 times. It's called Frog Detective, and there's 3 versions. The first one is The Haunted Island. The second one is The Case of the Invisible Wizard. And the third is Corruption at Cowboy County.
Amazing. I can't wait. Even just with the names, I'm like, they all have such specific like theming there. So I am so thrilled and excited to hear from you about this series later. You have given me, when it comes to your history with gaming, a little preview a few times. I don't want to spoil it, but will you kick us off onto maybe not playing games as a young kid?
I am the daughter of an immigrant. That's first off. So my dad is from Egypt, and he is a Muslim immigrant from Cairo who did not grow up with any kind of gaming in the way that one might, I don't know, maybe he did like a ball on a stick or some shit like that. I mean, he was playing soccer. He was playing that kind of thing. But like, if you're the kid of an immigrant, you probably have had a similar experience, which is your parent sacrificed everything to come to America and has like had to learn a new language, has had to adapt a whole new set of value systems. To hell with their child doing anything fun on the weekdays or let alone the weekends. Top that off with my mother, who was just kind of anti-video game, period. I think she thought a lot of them were violent and or a waste of time. So as a kid, I never had a video game system, and it drove me nuts. Everybody else was playing Sonic the Hedgehog, and once the N64 came around, that was a thing. And then the GameCube, etc. So of course, and this is a valuable lesson that I keep trying to impart to my friends with young children now, which is the more you deny your child something they really want, they will immediately go and find it the second that they can. And that is, of course, what I did in my college years / getting out of college, which is I got myself a Wii, and I never looked back. Now I have a Switch.
When it comes to those early days, too, do you have early memories of seeing video games at a friend's house in a public place or on a commercial?
Oh, yeah. I would go play with the Best Buy.
Yes.
Little sample Game Boys. I would beg to play with other people, but I sucked. I was so bad at it because I had no experience. So, you know, it's like asking somebody in a foreign land to like give a speech. In that language, and they can't do it, and they just keep fucking up and having to start over because they don't know how it works.
Yes.
That was me with pretty much every game. And then there were so many other games where it's like I would see a commercial or I would see an advertisement, like what's a Majora and its mask, etc. What? Who's this Yoshi? And why is he eating apples?
I know.
So there was so much that I had to kind of catch up on as I became an adult. And my first long-term boyfriend, college boyfriend, I should say, was a huge gamer. Lots of RPG, sort of in that, let's say, Elder Scrolls, Skyrim type universe.
Oh, yeah.
Did a lot of, there was a pirate game I think the guy was into. There was stuff where he was trying to introduce me and kind of get me more into gaming, because for a while I just thought, I think in the same way that, you know, if you don't grow up eating a certain food, maybe you think, oh, I just don't like that. Mm-hmm. I think there was a part of me that went like, well, I just must not like them. Never mind the fact that I was like constantly trying to play video games. Yeah. I think I hit a point, you know, maybe in my teen years and into college where it was like, well, that's just not something I do.
Sure.
And he was like, I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of like, I've played a lot of bits and bobs of games from, let's say, the 2000s. But there's a bunch that have just eluded me to the point where I've often gone, okay, do I need to like go back and find an old system? But now that they're kind of doing this thing where they like refresh, revamp old games, then I can play them in that way. I do not have a PS5 or an Xbox. Mm-hmm. Although at this point, what the hell's going on with Xbox? I feel like they're they're a disaster for multiple reasons. Yeah. Both like so I hear.
Culturally, and also just like seems like they're running their business into the ground, and they're mostly just a subscription service company. They don't seem to be concerned with being in the console game too much longer, is what it feels like.
Right, which is so odd to me, this whole subscription thing among console. I get it, you're like printing money or whatever, and at the same time, I'm like, you know that we buy the games for the console. We don't buy the subscription. Like, I've had subscription services and then I've canceled them. And I just can't help but feel like, you know, it's just one step further to the you will own nothing and like it kind of thing. And I'm like, but this is sort of one of the few places in which physical media is still very prominent. Most people I know, you go and you buy the game, or at least you buy it to download it to your, you know, to the storage on your console. Anyway, that's all to say that in terms of those gaming systems, there's a bunch of stuff that I haven't played. There's some stuff that I have, and the things that I have played that I really like, I really like. And a lot of those are, of course, AAA titles and whatnot, but some of them are more indie games, like the one we'll talk about later.
You mentioning this idea of, you know, possibly at least being interested in owning like a retro console or playing an old game that you maybe knew about. Are there any that come to mind that you're like, oh, if I could snap my finger and try this out from days gone by, do you know what that would be?
That's a good question. My husband has an N64 system.
That's right.
And he had a number of games, like when we first moved in together, and has culled the collection to some degree. So there are games that I know I can go and play literally after this if I want to. But I think if I could go back in time to being a kid, you know, at the right time and having it in my house and being able to play it, it would probably be me. I feel like GoldenEye would be the one that I'd want to get into, because that's what everybody was playing. And I felt, you know, fairly left out of it. That and obviously Mario Kart. And now I'm decent at Mario Kart, but, you know, I'm talking about the old version where it's like you could fall off a lot more easily. Yes.
Oh, I think about that, specifically the Nintendo 64 one, and that is a slippery game.
Yes. I got very good at the GameCube version because aforementioned X brought their GameCube to our dorms and decided to bring, I believe, is the Mario Kart version for that, and maybe it was Sunshine. I think we all gave Sunshine a go for like one evening, and then went, this fucking blows.
This game's awful to me.
And then I tried playing it again later, like just a couple years ago, when, you know, they had the like it replayed Galaxy, but it was like the N64 Galaxy. That
3D All-Stars collection.
Yes. That collection came out, and I tried to give Sunshine a go again. I went, it still kind of blows.
Do you know?
Literally and figuratively. Because literally I said, like, you got to hose down everybody like a goddamn car wash. And then B, because it was just so, I found the controls very frustrating on that game then and now. But back in the day when we were in college, I got very good at all those levels of kart, and there was definitely a lot of us trying to figure out, okay, how good can we get at drifting?
Yes.
How much of that blue spark can we make come alive?
Mm-hmm.
Quite a number of missed classes as a result.
Oh, I bet. Double Dash. What a game.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. It was great. And to this day, I feel like the best way, I think, to make a party come together, if you are unclear on what to do, is to stick Mario Kart on in the background and let a bunch of people play. Get some controls out, let them play. If it's a bigger party, some holiday party, put movies on, music, whatever. But if it's a smaller shindig and you guys are like, what should we do? Especially if you've got a couple of maybe board game averse folks.
Sure.
Or people who just suck at charades or something.
Yeah.
Mario Kart's the way to go.
It really is. Have you had a chance to play the Mario Kart World for the Switch 2?
I've played at a friend's house a couple times because I was like, please let me be that cow.
Yeah.
I really got to be that cow. I had fun with it and I liked it. I don't know, playing it for a short time, that it's something that I need right away. I think at first, you know how sometimes you see an ad for something and you're like, oh, I need it.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And that's how I was at first when I saw the ad for Switch 2. And then I was like, let's just hold on a second. Let's check the bank account. You don't need this right away.
Yeah.
And then after playing it, I go, okay, all right. I still don't know that I need it, but I like it. I just haven't had a chance to get that deep into it. I've heard mixed things.
Yeah, it's
overall.
kind of been met with it's still very, very positive, but for Mario Kart, it is kind of a mixed reception. I like it better than, and I still play it, and I know that a lot of people who have a Switch 2 kind of are ignoring it at this point, but I still find reasons to play, which is the kind of scenarios you're talking about, which is there's 3 of us or more around, and we're like, hey, we could get a knockout tour in right now, couldn't we? And then we play 4 rounds. But I think it's really good. It's really well designed. It's a great game. I just don't think it is quite as good as the game that came before it.
Yes, the game that came before it was incredible.
It's really hard to top that too.
It is. And it's just, I don't know. There's a part of me that goes, I think all that anybody really wants is just more levels, more ways to customize your carts, and more characters. I don't think that it needs to have extra layers on it. And like, how often are people doing more than that?
Sure.
Frankly.
Yeah. It's a good question.
I know that there's a whole, like, you know, a class of folks that are into like the battle mode stuff or go online to do that. But I think generally speaking, you know, it's a party game or it's a thing that you can play by yourself for, like, you know, you just want to get something in a little bit. You're just like, I got 20 minutes. I got 40 minutes. You know, I think it's like I have a short flight kind of game compared to other games where it's like you're very heavily invested or there's a huge story unfolding.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I'm not quite like marathoning a Mario Kart game like I might another title that I get sucked into, now that you put it that way. Speaking of other titles, you've given us an idea of, you know, an early foray into games for you in like that college era, maybe playing. You had also mentioned the Wii as well. Was that something that you were doing socially, playing with people? Or you got a Wii?
I got a Wii.
Is that your first console that you owned?
It was the first console I owned.
Very cool.
And felt very like, ooh, I've arrived. I played Galaxy on that thing. Smash Bro, the one that had its own little game attached, which I believe I tried with the Switch one, and I love the brawl aspect of things, but there was something about the Switch version of Smash Bro where I was like, this is almost overwhelming. I don't know. I might need to just give it another go. Maybe, you know how sometimes you go see a movie and you're like, I don't know. And everybody's like, what are you talking about? That's the greatest movie ever. And you're like, I don't know. Then you might have just been like your mood that week.
Yeah, 100%.
Anyhow, so that was one for the Wii. I honestly did use the sports a lot and like
hell yeah,
the exercising mat at some point. I can't remember if somebody gave that to me or if I got it on like super sale, but I was like, yeah, fuck it. Like, why not? And I, you know, it's not an exact science or anything, but it's like, well, it can't hurt to just like get some steps in, I guess.
Yeah,
or
do
that
some
little hula
stretches
hoop.
or yoga.
Yeah. It was a weird one where it was like, your balance is off. And I'm like, you don't know that. You don't know that with me standing on a mat. This thing doesn't have good enough sensors for that.
Yeah.
And then, there was some other stuff where I'd borrow a game here and there. But like, I feel like the use I got out of the Wii was big at first, then kind of just became like a remote.
Yes.
And it wasn't until years later when I got my Switch that the Switch is the first one where I felt like I've truly utilized the full extent of the console. I've played a bunch of games on it. I've played old games, new games, downloaded stuff. I've had the subscription. I've taken it off. Like I've done much more with it. I've gotten my money's worth and then some with the Switch.
Yeah. What are some highlights for you on the Switch itself?
So this is, I think I've told you this, and every time I tell people this, their eyes bug out of their heads. The first Zelda game I ever played was Tears of the Kingdom.
That's right. Yes.
And every time I tell the people, they're like, excuse me? And I'm like, now hold on. I didn't get to play games as a kid. And for a long time, I also didn't think I was much of a fantasy girly. Mm-hmm. I used to joke with people that my least favorite film genre, and genre in any medium, honestly, is a bunch of dudes in a tent wearing big cloaks who unfurl a scroll with a map. And it's like, we must attack from the north in order to meet the elves in the west. Like, this is my least favorite. Lord of the Rings aside, because I think that was just like a cultural juggernaut. Anything else like that, or with dragons or whatever, I was like, miss me with that. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of got over it and was like, no, that has some merits. I understand it. It's fun. So I kind of saw Zelda, I think at first, as just a fantasy game and wasn't necessarily even a fair shot.
Yes.
But I had heard too many good things about Breath of the Wild and too many good things about Tears of the Kingdom. And I went, okay, you know what? It's on sale. Worst case, I'll just resell it, get something else. And then I got very, very, very into it. But at first I was like, this game is hard. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until I played Breath of the Wild, like 6 months a year later, where I realized, well, it's not hard if you played the first thing. This is like trying to do calculus when you've never done algebra.
Yes, 100%.
So much. I had no idea there was going to be so much building, so many physics projects.
Oh man, in that game.
Let's make a trebuchet in the middle of the caves, kind of nonsense. That I was like, how is this fantasy? And yeah, the lore really threw me. I did not realize there'd be this much lore, so I like kind of tried to go back and understand the world more. And now I get it, and I go, yes, I'm a Zelda fan. I don't know if I'm a fantasy fan. I'm a Zelda fan, which brings me to a question I wanted to ask you, which is, have you must have seen the promotional photos that came out somewhat recently for the upcoming Zelda film.
Yes, a few there was like 2 photos that came out of like of the actor playing Link and the actress playing Zelda. Mm-hmm. I am cautiously optimistic about this film. Mm-hmm. I thought that the Super Mario Brothers animated movie was insulting. Not to Nintendo fans. I think they actually gave Nintendo fans everything they want. I think it's an insulting piece of art.
I agree.
I know it's a children's movie. There are well-written children's movies that don't go for all the low-hanging fruit. I know this is a very strong opinion I have, but I think it's really bad. I will see the second movie. I bet it will be even more infuriating. But they are made by different production companies, so I'm cautiously optimistic, even though I think I'm still a little confused as to why it's not animated. The Zelda movie, I mean.
Yes. My bestie is a woman named Emma Fife, who some of your listeners might be aware of. She's done tons of work for Fandom and GameSpot stuff, and has been a staple at the Game Awards for the last X amount of years, etc., etc. When she and I were discussing it, we both agreed that the way to make a Zelda film is just to do Majora's Mask. as an animated film, like do a dark fantasy thing or like a Jim Henson puppet thing.
Oh my goodness. Like Dark Crystal-ish?
Yes, exactly. Something that is like a little creepy, a little spooky, but just taking a full, complete story as opposed to, I think what they're trying to do, which is probably extend it into some kind of franchise.
Certainly.
Those photographs did not...
Did it inspire confidence for you?
Did not inspire confidence. To quote my friend Ryan, Temu Lord of the Rings.
Oh, Ryan.
So little, I know.
You may be right.
It was a little much. I'm like, I can see the hairline on these wigs. Like, I don't know what's happening. That said, I also don't know, was like this day one? Was that like, I don't know where they are in production. I don't know what the story is. So like you, I feel like I have to remain somewhat optimistic. I agree with you though, that the Super Mario, the animated film that became this box office juggernaut is,
it did so well.
Vile. And yeah, I think insulting is the correct word. Even for children, especially. For children, I think. There's a moment that stuck with me that I was so mad at when I walked out because I was like, this is just piss poor writing. Which is like when they first meet up and they're about to send Mario out, Peach tells all the Toads are like, who's that guy? And she's like, he doesn't matter. And they all go like, yay. And that's the joke.
Yes.
Literally like 20 minutes later, one of the Toads runs in and goes, Mario's in trouble. And they all look crestfallen. And I'm like, you didn't give a shit about this. You don't even know his name. What's happening? And I was like, you can't do this. You can't do this to me. Like, you think small children won't notice it? I don't know. It just felt like it had a similar vibe to, let's say, YouTube videos I've seen for kids, and I felt like there's just more money, more talent, more artistry that should be recognized and lauded, and it's certainly not in this movie.
100%.
Sorry to this man, but like I can't with that film. I can't.
Oh, and man, so
I'm so happy you also cannot.
Yeah, like sometimes when I share that opinion, I'm ready for someone to be like, hey, that's a little intense. It's a kid's movie. And I think that I'm like, that's exactly my problem, is that it's insulting to the kids.
It is. It's you watch a lot of Disney stuff, a lot of Pixar stuff, and it's like, it's not insulting to the kids. Like, you talk Bing Bong from Inside Out dies. Yes. Spoiler alert, sorry.
Yeah.
But like, you have a moment of emotional resonance. In this, I felt no emotional resonance. I was just like, and Donkey Kong's here now. Yeah. And they're on a rainbow road somehow.
How much can we stuff in this one movie? And the second one is like, yeah. Anyway, I'm with you. I will say, though,
the second one's got Girlbot Gaslight Gatekeep Rosalina, apparently. Like, the trailer just shows her, like, you know, pulling out jujitsu moves. I'm like, what?
I'm like, huh? I'm like, Rosalina?
What?
I've told this story before because it's come up. A good friend of mine, Alec, celebrated his birthday that year by renting out a theater for people to see the Mario movie, and that was the best way to see it. Was in a group of friends and comedians, all mostly laughing at the movie, but being together, so it was fun in that way. But then as soon as we were all done, we were like, what happened just now? So I kind of hope he does the same thing this year, because it comes out in like May or April.
Yeah.
I did want to ask you, as I sort of attempt to wrap up the gaming history segment of this podcast, what have you been playing lately? You mentioned something to me earlier. You can talk about that or whatever you want.
I did finish, like, just very recently, Hades 2. I love Hades and Hades 2. Those are both... I get a rogue game. Well, those were games where I didn't think I was necessarily going to be into them because I had such a history with like platformers and some open world stuff. But then I realized, like, oh, there is something so meditative about these games, about this like repetitive process of going through the exact same thing over and over again, that I felt it like I could get into the sort of Zen, clear my mind space that I'm sure is probably better for me physically if I like went on a walk or a swim, but fuck that noise. So instead it's me trying to escape the underworld. But I think both versions are equally beautiful. I think the second one, it's a little overstuffed. There's some other stuff happening in it that I go, do we need that many layers of things? I think, there's a lot of, okay, in order to get this object that you just gathered to work to your advantage, you need to unlock this spell. And the only way you do that is to meet this person. And the only way you do that is you need to be this many runs in. And the only way to do that, there's a lot of that kind of layering on that I feel like it makes it fun. And also at points where it's like, is there a way that we could we have a couple of entry points maybe as opposed to just one or two. All that said, it's a blast. I highly recommend.
That's so much fun. I love that we somehow got back to layers, and I wanted to curse Dante once again, or be like, no, he knew what he was talking about. And because it is hell themed, at least I know that the first one, you are literally fighting in hell.
Yes. Have you played them?
I've played about 10 hours of the first one. Actually, about 10 hours of each of them. I really like them both. I've just been, at each time they've come out, I've gotten overwhelmed by a different game for a project. So I was talking about this earlier today. The last thing I was doing was just about to triumph over the band in Hades 2, but that's not really far. That's like barely into the game.
No, but I mean, it takes you a while to get to that point. I think in both Hades and Hades 2, getting past the second level, like once you get the hang of it, and you're like, okay, I got this. I can get to the next level of escaping. Both of those second levels are pretty dang tough, and it takes a while to get past them. And then the third is like even harder. What's fun for me about Hades 2, without spoiling anything, is, okay, so in Hades 1, you are escaping your father, who is the king of the underworld. And so you are literally trying to get out of hell. In the second one, you are trying to defy Kronos, the father of time, or Saturn for the Roman god geeks out there. And so you are literally trying to kill time.
Yeah.
And so there's this little like meta in joke where it's like, haha, I get it, but I'm already too sucked in to like comment on what you guys are trying to say about me. For me, it's like the combination of great storytelling and beautiful art.
Yes.
The gameplay obviously is very important, but like you can make, I think, things easier in the gameplay, and if the characters carry some sort of emotional resonance and the artwork is gorgeous, I think you're going to have a winner on your hands. And if you don't have one of those things, if you have artwork that's, I don't want to say not beautiful, but like, I'm thinking of like an Untitled Goose Game where it's like it's deliberately not like as intricately drawn. The gameplay is so fun that you can really like get into, and it doesn't totally matter. Like it's very much the spirit of the thing. I think if it's leaning more comedic, you get away with stuff, which obviously I'll get into with this other title in a bit, but the more comedy focused or comedy forward, I think you get to just like have fun with kind of how stupid it is.
Yes.
Whereas the more serious it is, then, or like in the Fallout universe, like, I don't know, it'd be weird if everything looked like not Pip-Boy, but what's his face? Oh yeah,
the little the blonde
thumbs up kid.
Yeah, whatever he's called.
The Nuka-Cola mascot, whatever he is. No, he's the Vault-Tec mascot. That guy who's like, like if everything was in that style, I think it'd be, you'd immediately go like, oh, this is a satire of those kinds of games. Versus then when you play and you're like, oh my god, that monster is going to eat me now, and you're actually terrified.
And very terrifying monster. I love hearing that. I might recommend checking out Supergiant, who made the Hades games. Their first game, Bastion. Have you heard of this?
I have heard of it, but I haven't had a chance to play it yet.
It's worth checking out. It's another sort of like isometric, so like top-down little action game, but it's heavy on the narrative, and the art's also very pretty, and the music's great. It's worth checking out. The last question I have for you in this segment is, what game do you have your eye on to play next? Is it something that's coming out or that is in your backlog?
It's kind of wide open at this moment because I have a Switch. I've been sort of waiting for the next like big, say, AAA Nintendo announcement that hasn't really come through because they're trying to push through the Switch too, obviously. So the next big thing that I have on docket that I could play is Paper Mario.
Oh, whoa.
Which I have not played yet. My understanding it's a totally different thing. Yes, exactly. It seems up my alley, and it seems like it's a totally different type of gameplay than the other Mario games, of which I played Wonder. I played Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Love.
Oh, I love that game.
I have a very spiritual connection to Kirby as a character. In that we both are constantly inhaling things. And even as a kid, I was like, I get you.
Yes.
I know what your deal is, and I like it. I respect this guy. And that game is so much fun. But I feel like I've hit a lot of sort of the major AAA titles. So then it becomes things like, do I want to get into some PC stuff? There's there's tons of games. Like the one thing I'll say is, as a child, I didn't have a console, but I was able to play a few different PC games.
Yes.
Like Roller Coaster Tycoon. That was a big one. I was able to convince my father to get games like Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego or anything that kind of had an educational bent. There was a dinosaur game that escapes me that was like a half video game, half dinosaur encyclopedia situation. A
lot of encyclopedias for you.
Yeah, Encarta Mind Maze I almost discussed today because I played that all the way through a bunch. Because again, I was very limitation, man. When you are limited, you're like, well, I guess this is it. This is all we have.
Truly.
It's that or the Solitaire, the Minesweeper that comes with the computer.
Yep.
And because I got to play some of those PC games, like there's some of that I go, I'd love to get back into that. My husband is a big Tim Schafer fan, and so I've played some of those games either alongside him or like with him in that way.
Great.
That couples may do, where it's like one of you's actually playing, but you're both like, go over there, turn left, turn that kind of playing together.
I almost could hear him just now.
And so there's a bunch of those that I would like to get into, and I can't wait to read the please, guys, leave comments. Tell me things to play. Tell what should a millennial woman who never really had the chance, who has a better chance now than ever, get into? And I've played Animal Crossing. That's the one that I will not go back to, not because I didn't love it, but because one thing I'll say is that Sims type games, I get way too into them for way too intense a period of time. And then I like wake up one day and I go, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
And I just kind of stop cold turkey.
Yes.
The poor islanders.
Oh,
the amount of bugs.
My first island, I only did one. It's lost to time because my first Switch got stolen, but I basically didn't play that. I stopped playing like after 3 months of like playing every single day. I just went cold turkey as well and was like, I'm not going back. I wanted to mention a couple things to you, which is I love that, Arik is, I remember that jogged my memory. You telling me that he's a big Tim Schafer fan.
Former guest of this pod. Go listen.
Yes. Just this last fall. I would recommend checking out maybe some of the point and click adventures he's done if you haven't already with Arik. Or maybe as someone who missed out in that computer era, like the Monkey Island games are very cute, but you might have to have a PC to play those, at least the original couple. Even the remastered versions, they're only available there. And lastly, I wanted to say or ask, for Paper Mario, do you guys have the cartridge? Or are you playing on Switch Online?
I have the cartridge.
Cool.
I've recycled through some games. I'm big on recycle, reduce, reuse, and that goes for clothes. I'm big on thrifting, and it goes for a lot of objects as well. So
cool.
When it comes to something like games, it's like, okay, if I can sell you these 3 games for a new one, sure.
Yeah.
So even though I bought stuff online, I try not to. I'd rather buy the cartridge, so that way then I can have the resale value, or not sell the value. You know what I mean? Like sell it back for a thing. Compared to just like it's sitting on the console and I haven't played it.
Yeah, and that game has a lot of value. People really want that cartridge, so if you ever finish it, someone's going to be out there being like, I would love to play it. Well, let me know in the future if you do get into it, what you think. I really think that game is so charming and fun. You'll be able to get into the gameplay as well. It's a turn-based RPG, which you might already know, but it's simple, but it's incredibly fun. It has enough layers to be to have like nuance and stuff. So,
but it doesn't sound like hell.
No, quite the opposite. Sorry, Dante. Nadia, this has been so fun hearing about your general history. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll finally get into all things with the Frog Detective series, so I'll see you on the other side.
I can't wait.
Welcome back to Call Me By Your Game. Connor McCabe returning to the microphone with my guest, Nadia Osman. Nadia, welcome back.
Hello.
It's time to discuss the Frog Detective. I almost said the Great Frog Detective, and I'm like, that sounds like the Great Mouse Detective, which I have never seen. Have you seen this movie?
A long time ago.
Like as a kid, probably?
Yeah, as a kid. I think it was... If I recall right, it sort of kicked off the Disney villains but make them gay era.
Yes, someone just told me the same thing about this movie. Yes.
That's what I recall. He's Sherlock Holmes as a mouse. That's all I remember. I don't remember anything else.
I can't. This is like the 3rd time this week it has come up, and that one was my fault. But I am going to, like I was telling you before the show, give some brief history and context about this series. And if you want to jump in to add context or clarify anything I say, you've got the green light, all right?
All right.
Without further ado, here I go. Frog Detective is a series of adventure titles developed by independent Australian developers Grace Bruxner and Thomas Bowker, starting with The Haunted Island, a frog detective game in 2018.
Yes.
Gameplay revolves around the player's role as frog detective of, you guessed it, Detective Frog, who is trying to solve a mystery of a ghost that has allegedly appeared on the island. The game is mostly played from a first-person perspective as the player tries to collect ingredients for an explosive device as the frog talks with other characters throughout its journey. And that's the first game, but there are, of course, the 2 others. The first one, however, was met with mixed to mostly positive reception by critics and players upon release, and a sequel titled, which Nadia, you've already told us this info, the Case of the Invisible Wizard.
Yes. Yeah, Frog Detective 2.
That came out in 2019, and then Frog Detective 3, Corruption at Cowboy County, Yeehaw, was released in 2022, and then later in 23, the trilogy was re-released together as the called Frog Detective: The Entire Mystery. So,
yes, which is how I played it. So I played it all in one go rather than individually.
Yes. That is not a ton of information about the series, but do you think, before we dive into, your personal time and connection with it, are there any other details we should include?
I would just say that, the gameplay itself is you're collecting ingredients needed for various things in all 3. There's a bit of a mystery. It's not a particularly, crazy mystery in any case, with enough twists and turns or enough red herrings to keep you on your toes. Ultimately, what it is it's a very funny game. It has a very wry sense of humor that I think is something that you just don't see a lot in games, even games that are designed specifically for a young age group, or games that are we've talked about the Tim Schafer games, even stuff that already has a comedic bent. I think there's a lot of stuff where it's like games are trying to be funny.
Totally.
And this almost just feels like somebody wrote like a bunch of sketches and strung them together and then was like, let's make this a video game.
Yes. Yeah. Even from my like brief time surveying the series and learning about it, it absolutely has that. I watched, I should share this with you actually, the Grace Bruxner, one of the two main developers, she did a talk at the Game Developers Conference, I think that's what it was, about developing the game, but more specifically from the writer's perspective. And I think that's something you might find particularly interesting on how she approached that and her approach to humor. And you were talking about, you know, games trying to be funny, and that's definitely a risk for a game to do that, because if for whatever reason it's a medium that if that is attempted and the creators fail, it's really hard for people to enjoy the game. I mean, I guess that goes for like any comedy movie or series or sketch you have too, but it almost is like, oh, you could play with that fire right there and you might cook up something good, but you also might burn yourself in a way.
I mean, comedy is difficult, and if you're somebody who's developing a game, you are trying to not just figure out like a decent story, but also the gameplay that goes along with that story, you know? I've done a little bit of like ad hoc freelance work of creating choose your own adventure narrative games where, you know, things that involve like a romance story or what have you, where you're choosing what the character's going to say next. And it's tough because you've got both the element of let's make a compelling story, and also within this compelling story, what is going to compel somebody to click on this versus that?
Yes.
Or if they click on the other thing, how will they be rewarded? You know, if they're, if every answer, like, sorry, hold on. Excuse me.
It's all right.
If every time you click, you know, the B or the C answer, you're just sort of met with a dead end, it's very, very boring.
Yes.
You can't just like simply guide somebody. So you had to create this sort of like labyrinth of possibilities for them to go through, which makes humor pretty difficult because you have to kind of hit these points where it's like, okay, all these answers are jokes. They all result in jokes. And then you had to get back on track.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what Frog Detective does in a way where it's like, as you're collecting these items and talking to the various suspects, there's this element of how much of the mystery are you really solving? Like a little bit, but the mystery itself is so secondary, I think, to the characters and the goofiness of these games. They are truly goofy games.
Yeah. Well said. I'm sure we could talk about comedy in general, but comedy and games for a while, both being comedy writers who enjoy games. But I want to hear from you about your time with the series. First, let's start with how you discovered it. Was this something you were just scrolling the eShop? Was this recommended to you?
It was literally an eShop scroll where I went, hold on, what the hell is this? Don't sleep on your eShop, guys. Like, sometimes you will find stuff in there, or a friend will recommend something, or there will be a, you know, you just happen to come across the indie game of the year, or the thing that was on mobile that then got, you know, reskinned for the console, etc.
Yeah.
There's good stuff in there, but I saw it and kind of went, whoa, what the hell is that? Because it's it's a stupid name, Frog Detective. You know, it's like it's and its logo was kind of dumb. And I went, okay, let me watch the trailer. And the trailer itself had this great blend of taking itself a little seriously, but also clearly illustrating this is dumb. Mm-hmm. And I was like, great, I'm in. And so I did not necessarily anticipate when I purchased it that it was going to be the most amazing gameplay.
Yeah.
And in fact, maybe my biggest criticism of the game is that the gameplay itself is okay. You know, they're shorter games. They are, you know, it's like an hour each or something, maybe an hour and a half tops if you're going real slow. Probably much faster for most people. I was like trying to take my time with it and, you know, get my money's worth, stretch it out.
Yes.
But like it's the gameplay itself, you're not doing all that much. It's definitely more on the story side of things. Whereas once you're in it, you're like, this is just goofy as hell. And you're just sort of immersed in a cartoon world of these animals that all seem to know each other and kind of be friends with each other, but also kind of not. And it becomes a lot of fun for that reason, which is why I love it so much.
So it sounds like that what you're saying is that, like, yeah, as you're going around the world and meeting characters, that there's established relationships that people have with each other, good or bad, friendly or not.
Yeah, like first you start these games with Frog Detective getting a call from his supervisor. So in that first one, it's just like, there's a ghost of the island, go check it out, figure it out. And like your first task is like, where is my magnifying glass? Which is just so dumb. And like once you're on the island, you're meeting the guy who's like, I called you in. You're meeting a bunch of other folks where it's like this sheep, this scientist koala, this sloth, etc. And they've all got their own little character game going on.
Of course.
And in the first one, basically it comes down to the guy who owns the island wants to have a dance party with a friend who lives off island. But he needs the ghost to go away because otherwise it's going to scare everybody. So it's so dumb. And so like, it's just a lot of like figuring out like, is this guy going to ruin the dance party? Mm-hmm. Like that's the level we're talking about here. So totally. At this point in the pod,
that's the stakes.
Yeah, if at this point in the pod, if you're like, that sounds stupid, I'm like, okay, then you keep probably listening or don't. Yeah, but it's probably not for you. Like this is not a BioShock. This is not.
Yes.
This is meant to be stupid fun. But it does kind of have like it's like, what if Agatha Christie and Naked Gun had a bit? Yes. Like there's it's maybe not as like super parody as Naked Gun, but it has that it's maybe more because the developers are Australian. Maybe there's more of that like wry British humor to it. But this mismatch in tone between the stupid goofy comedic animals and like the serious stakes of like, no, you don't understand, there's a ghost on the island.
Yes. Yeah, and I love hearing too that the great thing that can be ruined is the dance party, but the character sort of taking that seriously is probably part of what makes it very funny.
Yes, exactly. And then in the second, go on.
Oh, I was going to ask you, does it feel when you're playing this game, what do the rewards feel like? Is the reward oftentimes obviously that I'm assuming that you're progressing a quest or your task, but is the reward just more funny information from the characters or another joke sort of thing?
Yeah, I would say that it's really that. It's less about you're really just trying to solve the mystery, and the mystery itself isn't like super crazy to solve. It's a lot of like, find this, but like which rock is it hiding under, like that level of guessing. So it's less about like the accumulation of the things. And as far as like the overarching stakes, I would say like if you can do this, like Frog Detective is going to not just succeed in their mission, but like get the promotion / get supervisor to notice them, etc. So like there's this other level of, well, you got to do it for Frog Detective.
For sure.
Like as you said, you're playing a lot of it first person, but then they'll have sort of cutscenes that zoom out so you see Frog Detective speaking with somebody, or like when you're not in those first person scenes, like when he sort of discovers, oh, this is the next part of the mystery. Really, it's just like all in service to solving the mystery itself.
Yes.
Yeah, in the second one, he gets another call from supervisor. I forgot about Lobster Cop too. Lobster Cop is like his rival, who's like in the hallway down from him, who's like, a frenemy, I guess is what we'll say. Mm-hmm. And he is, as the name might guess, a cop who is a lobster. And a cab, but lobster.
But he's one of the almost not on that list.
In the second one, it just becomes like there's something going on in a neighborhood, right? And it's the same thing. It's like the residents of this little neighborhood found out somebody new moved into the woods and they wanted to have a parade to welcome, but the parade decorations have been destroyed. It has a lot of DNA with like American Vandal.
Yes.
In my opinion. Not necessarily in the same tone, like American Vandal's much more blue and crude in tone. This is much more like age appropriate, I should say. But like the same kind of, again, stakes of like who destroyed the parade decorations. So in that second game, it's an invisible wizard where you're trying to figure out, okay, why would they do that? Why would they it turns out that everybody was like, we don't know what you look like because you're invisible and we want to find out. And we planned the parade so that we could make you become visible. There's layers to this. So there's extortion in the second one. You do tasks and there's like money exchanged. There's a lot of like going in and out of the town to try to figure out like who did this and why would they do this to the invisible wizard, and
what's the motive?
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of that, and the motives are always also equally stupid or equally like not necessarily leading or yielding anything of note.
Of course. I have a question for you. When you played this first game, do you remember like early impressions that you had? Like, were you kind of immediately caught by the charm and the humor?
Yeah, I was at first, because when I watched the trailer for it, I was like, this looks kind of dumb and fun, but much like any game series, like it could be dumb and fun, or it could just be kind of bad. You don't know quite know until you're playing it. It's like once it started going, I was like, okay, this is kind of fun. Ultimately, it's really just like a bunch of puzzles that you're solving. It's not exactly like a mystery. And it's light, but it's just funny.
Does the game do, and I'm sorry to just ask you details about the game itself and not, I'll be asking you more personal stuff too. But does the game do a good job of sort of telegraphing like your next task, or is that something you found you're butting your head against was like what to do next?
They kind of hint at it. So there's enough of a guide happening where it's like, oh, now we got to go talk to this neighbor to find out about this information. But there's also a little bit of room for you to be able to, I think, if I went to go replay it, I don't think it's going to play in the exact same way. I think there's like a little bit of room. Like you need to collect all these clues in order to figure out what's happened. And some of these clues need to be discovered in a specific order for it to happen. But I think it's a little bit more malleable from what I remember.
One thing I wanted to know is that when you played the first game, how were you feeling afterwards? Were you like, I've got to play the next game? Were you just charmed and you're like, well, I'll see what comes next?
I think I did these 3 days in a row where I did them for like an hour each. It was almost like watching like an animated special, I think is what I did, as opposed to like the immediacy of it, because I knew that these were short games. And so I knew that like if I could do it all in one night or all in one sitting. These feel like the kind of game that, again, like a short plane ride would be kind of fun, especially like, or like, you were on a road trip in the back seat and you need something that's going to go on for a couple hours. It's not, I don't think it's like something that you're going to get all that heavily invested in.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's definitely much more of a one sitting game.
Totally. Is this something that you've revisited at all, or did you have your like 1 3-day session with it?
I had my 1 3-day session with it, but it is something that I've like thought about, or like images from it will still crack me up. Because there's, sorry, my cat is being noisy. Because there's like these little tiny bits where it'll just be like I'm trying to remember like an exact
specific jokes.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of the endings for it are really great. I feel like I don't know. I'm trying to remember exactly without like just pulling up thing. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna pull out the screenshots that I made of
on your Switch.
Not on the Switch, but like stuff that I know I saved on my phone that I took pictures of because I was laughing too hard at the time.
That's a good endorsement.
Stuff that I could then refer to later because I was like, this is so dumb. This is so dumb. For example, there's a whole runner. This is one that I was trying to remember. There's a whole runner. I believe it starts in the first one, or it might have started in the second one and then happens in the third one as well. But Frog Detective just says, it just goes to show you, you can never trust books. And then there's this like little aside that's the developer that's like, hello, I'm the developer of the Frog Detective game. You should definitely trust books. I don't know what he's on about, but books are actually great and you should go to your library and support it, blah, blah. And then as the game proceeds, all the other characters are like, oh, books are terrible. You can't trust books at all. Like it's that level of just stupidity in terms of where humor is coming from. But also just the phrase, you should never trust books is so elegantly simple and dumb in its that. And there's there's another moment where it's just like there's a lion with an eye patch. I believe his name is Ralph in the second one. He's one of the neighborhood guys. And I think at some point, it's like, what's with the eye patch? Like, is that a clue? And your answer is just him saying, sometimes a boy just wants to wear an eye patch.
All right, Ralph.
Yeah, exactly. It's that level of, again, now, if you've gotten further into the episode, you're like, I don't know, I was never into BioShock anyway. This might be my thing. But if you hear that and you're like, I don't understand what's funny, I don't know that you're going to like this game.
Yes.
But for the rest of you who might be chuckling, this might be your game.
It might be. I would love to ask you about this 3-day session you had with it. Was this within the last year? When was this? What is some context we could dive into?
This is a couple of years ago. It was pretty recently after I got married. And when I had seen it in the eShop, it was on a super sale that made me go like, oh yeah, this is fun and will, be worth my, whatever it was, $5-10 at the time. Which is again, why you should never sleep on the eShop, because when stuff goes on sale, you can get stuff for a very good deal.
Especially those indie titles.
Yes.
I'll save a little wish list. And occasionally something like this that I've been considering for a while will be like $3.29. And I'm like, well, I'm scooping this up.
Yes, exactly. This is the exact kind of thing that's like, for the maybe 7 and under range or whatever. It's like, oh, perfect. Like you get the one sitting game that's like charming fun for an evening. Please. A movie ticket could never.
Yeah. And you're talking to AMC stubs listers.
You're talking to people that pay a subscription to go to the movies.
Yes, gladly.
It's so when I sat down to watch, I believe it was during the holidays, and it was, again, as I alluded to earlier, there's been times where I play games, and then there's times where me and my husband both sit down to play something together. And by play something together, maybe we're sharing the controls, maybe one of us is just taking over for a little bit, but we're both invested and watching the TV and playing along together and reading everything together so that it becomes a joint activity. And in this case, it was just these like very silly, dumb moments of like losing it. Now, some of this might just be our sense of humor, and or just how much I love when animals get dumb and say things to each other in like this kind of world. But it really charmed the shit out of me. There's another moment where Supervisor, who I forgot is a penguin. So Supervisor is Frog Detective's boss, who's the one delivering the cases to him. You see him mostly at the beginning of the games. He says, at some point, "Are you serious? Horses are valued members of society." With a straight face. What the context for that was, I don't remember. And I don't, even if I could remember, I don't know that I want to share it because I just want you to sit with that. Horses are valued members of society.
And does there need to be an analog to our real world? No,
not at all. Not at all. With that first one, it's much more like, you're on an island and it's kind of going for like, let's do more of an Agatha Christie thing. With the second one being in kind of a suburban neighborhood, it's a little bit more of a like, let's explore other ways in which we can do the gameplay. Plus, I think they will probably get more money as indie developers. And then the third one, you have like a much more, comparatively, I should say, expansive field to play in, which is the corruption at Cowboy County, where it's, Frog Detective arrives at Cowboy County. And then this version, it's that the hats for the citizens of the town have been stolen. And this case is so serious that Frog has to now work in tandem with Lobster Cop.
Oh no, say it ain't so. not the two rivals. That's a fun wrinkle though for a third game.
I know. I love that they like layer on top of each other too. And there's callbacks and runners in all of them that are either within each game or that carry through as just like, this is something about the character that we're going to like hold on to as information. I would also say that like it, in a lot of ways, it's like a game a kid would make.
Yes.
But like the kind of thing where a kid would make it and your friend might be like, so my kid made a game. And you're like, okay, sure. Right. like I love your kid. Your kid's smart and cute and we're all here for them. But also like, okay, I guess part of this dinner is now I got to listen to this kid's game. Okay, that's fine. And you don't quite know what you're in for. And then you hear the game or you play the game and you're like, this is really fun.
Yeah.
And you're like pleasantly surprised by the depth that the game can have. Like it's charming. And again, I will criticize it a little bit in that like I can definitely see how a lot of people would be like, this is kind of boring. Like the plots are a little too simple, or, even if the environment is good or it has this fun world, like it's just too small. There's not enough mystery. There could be more stuff going on. And to that, I'd say, I'm certain that if this developer had way more money, they'd probably be able to extend this and make this like multiple levels.
Yeah.
But when you don't have any money to make a game, like, you have any idea how expensive it is to make a game, people? It's very expensive.
Truly. I think this was something like, I'm talking out of school a little bit because I don't have it in front of me, but I want to say, so about the development, this is unrelated to your context, but it says that the game took 5 months to develop and Grace aimed to subvert the detective genres as she created the game. I mean, it directly references Agatha Christie right here. It says, I think this must have been like a school game that she made, or a game she made at school, or for like a small project. Cause
that sounds right. I think it was either for maybe like her grad school or like that, her short film project equivalent is
and I'm missing the citation here, so I apologize, of just like floating information that could be incorrect, but I think I have read that before. I love hearing too that this is something that you said you and Arik shared and were like laughing and having a good time. Do you remember from that holiday? I know it's just a couple of years ago. Does anything else stick around from that like season for you, whether it be like something you were up to or an event you went to? It can be unrelated to the game too.
This past year was very rainy, and I have a feeling that I believe that year it also was. There was at least one or two like rained in evenings. So playing a cozy game with an aura of coziness around you, environmentally speaking, I think it can't get any better than that. You get your hot cup of, your beverage of choice, and you're sitting around the warmth, the glow of the television as you smash buttons. I would also say that like around that holiday time, like for me, the holidays represent a time of rest and reflection. Growing up in a house where we did Christmas, but then as I got older, it's not that I like fully stopped doing Christmas. There was just like no real reason to continue to do Christmas in any like specific meaningful way. I wasn't going back home. My sister, goes with her in-laws to do that kind of, and I would go with, boyfriends at the time to celebrate their Christmas. I didn't have my own thing. So part of what me and my husband have done, because he grew up Jewish, is Jewish, so he didn't grow up with Christmas either, is that at the holidays we take some time for ourselves around Christmas Eve, Christmas, the day after Christmas, and then either like a couple days leading into it or a couple days leading after, in that sort of weird in-between time, to just kind of hang out and relax. And I find myself very lucky in that we don't have to necessarily do the production of Christmas. Like right now I am childless, so like there's no I'm not putting on Christmas for a little kid, and I'm not having to show up to somebody else's house to put on Christmas for other kids, and I'm not having to stay beholden to any specific family tradition. So it's just about creating our own traditions, and one of those traditions has sort of evolved into playing a game around the holidays. Not always, not every year, but it's like one of the potential traditions. One year we played Ori and the Will of the Wisps. That was another one that we played. Another year it was, I think this was the pandemic year, it was the Call of Cthulhu game.
Oh, interesting.
Which is one of those, like, your first person detective player trying to, it's another mystery game, but like much darker mystery, obviously, and, trying to lean into the Lovecraftian lore. That is the Cthulhu monster. But this, this is a welcome departure. Much cuter.
Yes. Are there other like dishes you like to have that time of year? Do you sink into movies or books as well? Like what else is is going on with the relaxing? I love those details.
Connor's like, fuck the games. I need to rest. I need to relax.
I'm missing the holiday already.
I make a buffalo chicken dip in a slow cooker.
Oh.
Real easy recipe. And that becomes sort of the Christmas Eve snacking.
That's so good.
I go to the store and I stock up on a lot of like what can be stuck in an air fryer, toaster, oven situation. The hors d'oeuvres that one might find around the holidays at a party, like a cheese log, that kind of thing. The other big sort of cooking thing that I will do is I will make cinnamon rolls from scratch.
Oh, nice. From scratch?
Yeah. It's not that hard. It sounds a lot harder than it is, but like they're so filling is the thing. Like this past year when I did it, I was like, I got to start doing this in 2 batches, and then we each get to have like 2, and then I got to give away the rest. Because like day 5 of eating cinnamon rolls, and you're like, my blood is sugar. I'm going to die. Call an ambulance. Like it's congealing into syrup. It's too much after a certain point. But that first bite when it like comes out of the oven, you're like, oh yeah, this is so good.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that coziness I think around the holidays is important. And like giving yourself that break. And if nothing else is happening with the world, you might as well just like take a beat and relax, and then it's hang out or do something. It used to be more party hardy for New Year's, and now it's more chill and hang for New Year's. Because then once January hits, people are like, well, time to get back to work and do all this other stuff, no matter where you live and what the weather might be like outside.
Time to make our dreams happen and also face the horrors of the world. Each of the last 2 Januaries have been like horrific to start.
Yes.
Both locally and nationally.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
God, I relate to that.
Very much so. So there's this moment where it's just like, we made it to the end. We deserve a break. And that break is a little game. And again, sometimes 100%. It's like, we haven't done it, the game thing every year. In terms of movies, I think sort of ebb and flow on whatever the mood strikes us as, but I think it's a lot of like, either comfort food viewing, or it's like, what's the new Oscar buzz?
Of course.
kind of thing with that movie subscription, with that AMC A-list.
It's good. I've got one more question for you before I sort of tee you up to close things out for us. The question is are there any other details about Frog Detective that you haven't shared yet that you're like, oh, if I leave this podcast and I don't talk about this, I'm going to be bummed?
Let's see. So we've mentioned Lobster Cop. I should emphasize that Lobster Cop is one of the greatest stupid characters I've seen, particularly in gaming, because he is kind of full of himself. Frog Detective is a little bit more like he's the greatest detective, but he's also a little bit shy about it. There's a modesty, a sort of British humbleness that comes with it, versus Lobster Cop, which feels very American. Whether they mean to or not, it feels very America coded.
Yeah.
Once you're in the third one, that Cowboy County, I feel like that's where, the promise of the premise really starts to come into play, because you have a few more twists happening. These are a few spoilers, so spoiler warning, skip ahead to a certain point. So he's got to get these hats, right? But he's got to work with Lobster Cop, and there's a sheriff, Mason Mole, that he's got to work with. And so there's there's all kinds of stuff happening in the town. There's a guy who's trying to find his next muse, who's an artist. There's a bunch of outlaws. I think they're either they're sloths or they're led by a sloth leader. Once Frog is able to get the hats, he finds they're buried, and before he gives them back, there's evidence of Frog burying the hats, which makes it look like he stole them. Because no hat can fit his weird head. So everyone believes Frog stole the hats, and he's sentenced to 1 year in, quote, the bad room, which is a jail cell. And they just keep calling it the bad room. I don't want to go to the bad room. That it's just a jail cell he made.
Wow.
And then it becomes this whole thing where Frog Detective has to be I'm innocent. I'm going to start a blog to prove my innocence. And one of the blog readers is somebody from the first game who's I remember you. There's no way you did this. So then at least there's this whole other investigation. And it turns out that Lobster Cop felt threatened by Frog Detective and his amazing detective skills. So he eventually, he was framed. There's layers. Also, every one of these games ends with a dance party. Which is
a great staple to have.
Yes, every single one. That's how they end. Dance party. The other big thing to tell you, besides the fact that as you go on, they are building on top of each other, and so you're getting rewarded for things that you've already seen, is that there is a side game that I think was built into the three that they put together.
Oh yeah.
It's basically a Tony Hawk parody, where it's just Frog Detective gets to skate around and you collect, coins or whatever, and you just do it within a time frame. It's just a little mini game that's attached. Yeah. But it's so, again, very stupid and dumb and fun. And depending on which game you've played, various characters show up on the sides behind the chain link fence cute. To cheer them on. But it's what's Frog Detective doing skating? Who cares?
Yeah.
It's wacky.
Let him skate.
Yeah, let him skate. Enjoy it. It's such a good... There's this article from Verge that I found that I was this kind of really helps solidify what it is. The fact that in that article in particular, the screen grab they grabbed is Frog Detective saying, "Supervisor, I can't wear hats." It's already setting this stuff up for later. But
yes.
In a lot of ways, the fact that this is so goofy, so wacky, so dumb, makes it just so delightful, because there's a mechanic that I forgot to mention. So in the first one, again, as a student project, there's not that much going on, but in the second and third one, you get a notebook. which you can personalize with stickers. And it's like a way to keep track of your progress in the game. And it's also a resource for like, I forget that like in the second and third one, there's a lot of trading. So it's a lot of like, you have found this item that somebody else need, like I have sugar and somebody else is going to need it to bake the cake, but you don't know that yet. So then you'll just like grab the bag. Oh, okay. Now I'm going to trade you that so I can get this thing to give to that person to get this clue answered, which is like one way in which the gameplay gets expanded. So it's a little bit more in that puzzle solving realm.
Yes.
Again, not like, is it particularly mind blowing? No, but it kind of doesn't matter, especially when you got a frog who can't wear hats because of his weird shaped hat. Yeah. But yeah, it's just a short story that's basically a game. And like, it's these little bits and bobs within the game of like who this character is. Or lines where it's like within the notebook where it'll be like, I talked to so-and-so. They insist they are not suspicious. This makes them much more suspicious than they realize.
Yeah.
Like, that's the level of humor that we're talking about here. And I just love it. It's so dumb.
It kind of sounds like you just wrapped it up in the way I would have asked you to do anyway. Just kind of the place it holds for you. No last words, correct? I don't want to step on your toes, but it felt like you just wrapped it up.
I guess my last words would be that you shouldn't trust books. You just can't. No, I guess my last words.
Well done.
My last words really are that if you are looking for something that is a short little jaunt that's kind of fun, that you can play by yourself, in a couple, with a group, but you want something that's light, easy breezy, fun little animated bits, and like, a goofy little bit of puzzle and humor, this is a game for you. If you're looking for something that has more mystery, more of an intense solving element, something that's got a longer, bigger story, something that isn't going to be just like a tour game, keep digging through the eShop. But for the rest of us who are like, I want to laugh while I play a game, this might be your bag.
Incredible. Well, thank you so much for bringing on the Frog Detective series to discuss. I'm totally sold. I got to get this series and just play through it. It sounds so much fun and so cute. Nadia, we've got a couple fun things to do before we go, but thanks for bringing this on.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You bet. The first of the two post-show segments I have for you is the Fact Me by Your Game series, where I'm just going to share one fun fact with you about the Frog Detective series. What do you say?
I love it. Let's hear it.
So I have this fun fact titled, "This funding is super hot." And this comes from an article from the website Rock, Paper, Shotgun, which I will include a link in the show notes in the citations section. But Frog Detective 2, Case of the Invisible Wizard, was partly funded by the game Superhot. Do you know this VR game Superhot?
I don't.
Nadia?
Tell me more.
It's kind of one of the most well-known VR games where it's sort of like a very simple John Wick style game. Like, the presentation's polygonal and very simple, but every time you move, the world continues to move as well. So like, if you see a guy down the hallway and you want to throw an object at him, if you stay still, nothing happens. You can like look around and survey the scene, but as soon as you reach for like a knife to throw at him, he will start to maybe run at you.
Okay.
And then when you throw the knife will have a whole trajectory. There's people with guns. It's a very simple but fun game. The developers of Superhot, after the first game, Frog Detective, was made, unrelated though, had set up the Superhot Presents initiative, which was intended to offer both mentorship and money to games that they wanted to see made. And so what happened was they ended up noticing the first Frog Detective game and reached out to Grace Buxner about helping fund the second title. And so they did. So they helped her at least fund and maybe were there for advice on the second game. But they also signed one other game because of this initiative, also from Australia, titled Knuckle Sandwich, a game I haven't touched at all, but I gotta look up at this point.
They know what they're doing over there. They got the goods. They recognize talent when they see it. I love that, and I wish that there was more of that. I wish especially Australia, Canada, the UK, parts of Europe are pretty good about let's find ways to fund other art mediums, and the US is not so much, or very much stronger. Or it'll be a corporation that's like, look at this. We're proud to give you $10, like a grandma writing a birthday check, and you're like, well, what fucking good is that gonna do me? Thank you, and also like this goes to nothing. Whereas
here's $10 and give us all the rights to your game, sort of thing.
Exactly. Whereas I would love to see something like this coming from U.S. game developers or just bigger game developers. Like I wish that there was. And there might be, and I don't know about it. And if there is, please correct me.
Yeah, I guess
but like,
possible.
I wish that there were major studios or like mid-level to big studios who were able to put out like we've given out, 10 awards to make sequels to these games, or like we love this student project and we're going to give them, a development deal for a year to come up with this, much like.
Yeah, we need like a grant or something like that for like indie developers or whatever.
Yes, exactly, because it feels like that is how you then build the next set of characters. And let's not kid ourselves, video games are also IP. Clearly, like Hollywood has taken notice, and with the success of Fallout and the goddamn Super Mario Brother movie, and like that. No matter.
Oh God, we've gone full circle. Come back to that.
The fact that like Hollywood could absolutely take this indie game and then develop it and turn it into something. Maybe not Frog Detective necessarily, although I could see an avenue for it being a Saturday morning cartoon of sorts.
Sure.
But like, it makes no sense to me to leave those kinds of things on the table. Like a little bit of investment could go a long way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Love the idea of this. Anyway, that's the one fun fact. I'll lead us into the final segment, the game recommendations. Now, Nadia, this segment is my one forced tie-in to the movie Call Me By Your Name, where I am going to treat Frog Detective as your passionate summer fling in Italy, very memorable from a particular time, but unfortunately, that relationship has run its course, and you're in heartbreak now. I want to, as your friend, wonderful cry there.
By a fireplace, just tears streaming. So stare into the fire.
Just a lot of tears.
So much Sufjan playing in the background.
The Sufjan will not end at all. I want to help you get back out there. And I have 3 potential new flings to introduce you to. They all have a little something in common with Frog Detective, so it's a little familiar. But the most important thing I need to know is, are you ready to get back out there?
I thought it was going to be me, Lobster Cop forever, but sometimes you just got to let a good thing go.
Yes.
Okay.
It's true.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's get back out there.
Music to my ears. Again, here are 3 for you today.
All right.
The first of which is if what you liked about this was that it was a funny adventure game. Well, recommend another one that came out, I believe this was 2024, a game called Thank Goodness You're Here. Also has plenty of British humor in it.
The title alone, title alone already got me.
There we go. You haven't heard of this before today,
I don't think
you?
I have, no.
The presentation's completely different than Frog Detective. It's like a 2D sort of flat art style, but it's very charming, supposedly very funny, and an adventure title just like this one. I don't think it's a mystery game, but I think there's enough there for you.
Okay.
The second recommendation is if what you did love was the detective nature, the mystery, the solving of crimes, perhaps. I'll recommend something like that, but it's actually way more dark, scary, and Twin Peaksy.
Ooh.
This is a game called Alan Wake 2. You don't know Mr. Alan Wake, do you?
I don't. Tell me more.
Now I actually, based on what you've told me, I know you don't have a system that can play this game, but this is a fantastic series from the studio called Remedy, where you play as an author named Alan Wake, in sort of a like Twin Peaks world where not everything makes sense. There's a lot of ethereal stuff going on, and you're trying to solve mysteries, and so is this. It's not the same as Lobster Cop, but a cop, and you're both solving mysteries. You might be in another world. She's trying to save you. You're trying to warn her. It's a great series. Alan Wake 2.
Okay.
Lastly, if Nadia, you just like your ribbits. You like your froggies. I'll recommend a game that just came out recently called Big Hops, where you play a frog, and it's a 3D platformer where you use your tongue to swing off of stuff.
Oh, that's fun.
And I actually am really interested in this game. It seems awesome.
I love all of these suggestions, quite frankly. These all feel right up my alley. And even if frogs are like the thing that attracted me the least to Frog Detective, ironically, I love a 3D platformer that allows you to do fun shit with it. So, I'm in.
Okay. I love that. Well, I'll recap these just so before we go. We have Thank Goodness You're Here, Alan Wake 2, and Big Hops. That'll do it for the Rex, and that'll bring us to the end of the show. So once again, before we plug whatever we want to and get out of here, Nadia, thank you so much for taking the time to do this today. This is so much fun sitting down and talking.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. What a blast. What a treat to talk about this silly little goofy game. And as a new to the world but avid fan of gaming, I'm here to stay, baby.
Hey.
No Dante can kick me out. No matter how bad it gets down here.
Get lost, Dante.
Hit the road.
Well, you plugged your podcast earlier. Would you like to plug that and anything else again?
Once more, you can check me and my friend Matt Brian Cohen talking about Sex and the City nonsense and more on Big is Moving to Paris. You can also follow me on... where if I'm on a social media thing, it's at MsNadiaOsman.com. MS Nadia Osman. And that's Blue Sky among a few others. Not
cool.
Goodbye, Twitter. You were once a whole thing for me, and then much like the Xbox have gone up in flames.
Yes.
Different reasons, different, I think, prerogatives there, but,
Yeah.
Fare thee well is what I'll say to that. I'm not really on the Instagram, but I am in other places. And I have a Substack if you guys want to go check that out.
Oh,
so
cool.
Same thing, Miss Nadia Osman.
I'll put a link to your podcast, Blue Sky, and Substack in the show notes. That way people can just click. And that stuff will be there along with all the stuff I'm about to plug right now. The cover art for Call Me By Your Game is done by the artist Glenn J. You can find his Instagram if you want to check out his other works in the show notes. This podcast is produced, edited, and the original music is done by Jeremy Schmidt. If you want to follow the podcast, you can do that a number of ways. We are on Blue Sky, Instagram, and there's a whole YouTube version of this episode that you may have missed. And if you want to see really cool looking people and the way they react to things visually as we laugh and throw our heads back, follow us on YouTube. Give us a subscription there. We're almost at 150 subs, which isn't a lot, but to us, it's more than we've had before. So follow us there. You can follow me, Connor McCabe, on Blue Sky as well, just at Connor McCabe. And lastly, if you're still listening and you want more bonus video game podcasts from me and you like the conversations I have with other people about them, check us out on Patreon. You might find something for you at all of our different tiers. There's different bonuses. So if you want to support us, find a tier that works for you or just share the show with a friend. That'll do it for another episode of Call Me By Your Game. We will see you on the next one.